welcome back everyone to These Aren't the Nerds You're Looking For. This is episode 3. Technically the title is called The New Padawan, however this is actually the first segment of the Clone Wars movie. So officially this is starts at about 1 minute 6 seconds into the movie and goes to about 28 minutes 10 seconds. So we're looking at roughly that first 28 minutes, because there's a little bit of shit that doesn't have anything to do with the episode before it, and that's the easiest cutoff mark that we could find in between scenes that succinctly covers the story section that we're going to be talking about here. So I should probably go back and introduce myself. I'm Kevin Horde. Over there is...
I'm Lorenzo Fon, yeah.
Alrighty. So...
Good intro, yeah.
How about that?
Yeah.
So a little breakdown of this particular episode. Hang on. I'm going to go back again. Lorenzo, where do we come from at the end of episode 2?
Well,
the hidden enemy.
The Jedi, Anakin and Obi-Wan are on Christophsis. They had that issue of trying to chase down Ventress. She was throwing books at them.
She was throwing books at them.
She was throwing fucking books. Then you had that weird B... What do we consider A plot and B plot? A plot was
the clones. B plot was
clones.
The books.
The books, yeah.
Right.
So A plot is you have that's right, because the title of that episode was Hidden Enemy. You got a clone who has turned spy, so they're trying to figure that whole thing out, and then they figure that whole thing out, and then they're still in Christophsis, and battle has kind of died down for a second, and they got the turncoat guy, which I can't... was Slick, that's right. Part of his deal was he was trying to steal like guns or something from the armory or something like that, right? He was about to blow it up.
He blew all the shit up. Like he blew up all their like AT-TE walkers and all that shit.
Yeah.
So kaboom, bye.
But the heavy weapons got saved, right?
I don't remember.
Because I have a note that says managed to save heavy weapons.
Then I'm gonna say yes.
So somehow in all of that, heavy weapons were the last thing standing, and then now we get to this movie, which still jumping kind of sideways a little bit.
Mm-hmm.
Before we keep rolling back, how do you feel about the movie? We talked about the episode starting with narration.
Okay.
But how do you feel about this movie starting with narration?
That's a good question. And that the newsreel starting the beginning of the Clone Wars movie is something that I definitely wanted to cover pretty heavily. So if you don't mind, I'm going to give a little breakdown of what happens in this episode, and then we'll just jump straight back into that newsreel.
Yeah, start there. Yeah, start there.
So, like Lorenzo was saying, we left our heroes on Christophsis. To begin the new Padawan, we're on Coruscant. We got this voiceover. Essentially, Jabba the Hutt's son was kidnapped, and at the very beginning, we've got this kind of little conference where Jabba's on a hologram transmission message in front of Sheev Palpatine and Mace Windu, and then they're discussing what should be done. So Sheev's all like, yeah, we need to go do it. And Mace is like, nah, I don't know. I don't trust Jabba. So
yeah. It
cuts from that back to Christophsis. Anakin and Obi-Wan are still there, still fighting. So for a little bit, they split up, then they get back together, they fight some more. And then Yoda shows up. This new Padawan is there. We're going to find out who that is. So supposedly this takes place immediately following the hidden enemy, right?
It seems like it, yes.
But I do question... to me, that comes into question also. So let's get back to your question. You were asking me how I feel about the voiceover at the beginning of this.
Mm-hmm.
I think that when I saw it in theaters, it was great. I loved the concept of it. It very efficiently replaced the lengthy crawl that we had seen in the live action movies, and you actually touched upon it last week or the week before about how in the storytelling medium of television and having 22-minute episodes, it's an effective means of expressing a little bit of information, getting that out to the viewer, and moving on. I think the delivery works well. I'm not sure about the content.
Yeah, especially so a few things all at once here. Yeah, speaking of starting with the content, it is really weird now watching these episodes in chronological order.
I agree.
And then what would essentially be the previously on segment of, because they both serve as the yellow crawl, but also they are essentially just the previously on, the Clone Wars, right? Because this shit is out of order, this previously on makes no sense. They're introducing characters and plot lines that we have never heard of before, right?
Yeah, one of my first notes was so that during this voiceover at the beginning by the narrator, there's kind of this montage of little cutscenes, and I said, when does this shit happen? Because we've seen two stories. We've seen Cat and Mouse, and we've seen The Hidden Enemy. And these little snippets are not from either of those two stories. Like, this is completely separate shit. So one of two things, I think, happened. Either Dave Filoni took the time to get some animation done for these little snippets of a montage of things that, quote unquote, were happening in the Clone Wars that we just didn't see on screen.
Yeah.
Or this is shit from that could have been cut from other productions that really just fits into other things that we see later.
Yeah.
Which is probably more likely.
I think so too. I feel like they just want to stick with the newsreel, so they kind of just made this little thing. But again, as a theatrical release, I don't know why they forewent the crawl, unless they were already animating this as part of the pilot anyways,
I honestly feel like the crawl was eliminated because I really don't think that the original idea was to do a movie. I think that the idea was to do a TV show, and then they started putting these TV shows together in series, and that is why the Clone Wars movie is broke down into 4 episodes on our show, because it is literally comprised of 4 separate episodes that were put together, that were edited all together as one, and released in theater.
Yeah, to me, there is no doubt that is what is going on. So if you kind of want to broach that now, so then you brought it up. You saw it in theaters.
Yeah.
How do you feel, or how did you feel? And maybe now that we're almost 10 years later after the release of Clone Wars in theaters, about the idea of, let's still refer to it as a movie, right? Paying $10 and then getting some pretty subpar animation quality.
Okay.
And what is definitely very clearly 4 stitched together episodes.
Right.
And then trying to claim that is, at the time your $10 worth or whatever it might have been,
Right.
Like cheaper or more depending where you live.
So let me share my history of my first viewing of this movie. Bought tickets in advance at a local theater for myself, my wife, and some friends. And so August 15th, 2008.
Mm-hmm.
At I don't know, about noon, I trucked on over to the theater, and which was at a local mall, luckily, because they got a food court and all that jazz.
Yeah.
So I went in with my charger, with my phone, my charger, my Kindle Fire, and a jacket or whatever, and camped out on the floor. Probably got there around 12:30 in the afternoon for a midnight showing. So I guess that would have been April 14th. So that was back when midnight shows were actually at midnight.
Yeah.
And I was the only person in line until 9 o'clock.
Yep. That was going to be my question.
So I sat there by myself for about 8.5 hours. And the second guy that was in line shows up with these 2 bags from KB Toys. And
God rest KB.
He apparently, I guess the mall closes at like 9 o'clock. So he had come in and wanted to hit up the toy store before they closed. So he starts pulling fucking 3 3/4 inch action figures out. And he's like, man, check this guy out. His name's Rex. And like, there's this dude. I don't even know what the fuck this guy's name is, but he's green. Like, he's cool. And we're talking about toys, And at this point, I really didn't dive too deep into finding any information out about this movie, except for I knew that it was a Star Wars movie. My initial reaction when I had seen like a preview was like I was like, the backgrounds look like they're fucking real, and like the people in it look like they're in a really good video game from 2007.
Yeah.
So that was like the standard that I had, and then this dude's showing me all these clone troopers and shit that he bought at KB Toys, and I was like, this is going to be great, despite the fact that I just sat here for 9 hours by myself. So he goes out to the car or whatever, and drops his toys off, and comes back in, and then I think shortly after that, a couple of my friends had shown up, and one of them had like a 12-pack of Busch Light or something, so that was helpful. And we sit there the remaining 2-3 hours. I think my wife was smart and showed up, like 11:30.
Yeah.
For this midnight show. And we go in and we watch the movie. And we come out. And my friend Matt basically looked at me and goes, what the fuck was that? And why did I stay up until fucking 2 o'clock in the morning to see that movie? And I was like, what are you talking about? That movie is fucking awesome. And he was like, yeah, says the guy's been sitting here since noon. Like,
oh, no.
So from the beginning, I enjoyed it. I can definitely understand many of the criticisms that people have made about it.
Yeah.
One of which is the woodenness or puppetness, marionetteness of the characters,
designs.
The character design. And recently I was actually on Wikipedia looking at the Clone Wars movie article, I guess. And I don't know how far down it is, but as you read through it and read through the production of the movie, the animation style is actually, like, it's considered marionation. So it's it's literally a combination of marionette movement and style of a wooden puppet and animation like that. Yeah. So that was the goal. So knowing that, like, I don't know if that qualifies as a criticism or just kind of a poignant matter of fact statement. Like, if that's what you're going for, that's what you're going for. So.
Here's my problem though.
Okay.
Is that I don't mind the character designs. Right? They do have a stylistic look. That is if you're looking at still frames of them, right?
Right.
Like Yoda's got a cool style, Anakin and Obi-Wan, they definitely look they have a animation style that's their own.
Right.
The problem with to me is that when they are actually animated, the animation is quite wooden, but it's in the movement of the faces. Like there's no subtlety to it, right?
Yeah, like you can see Obi-Wan's mustache is like a separate piece from his beard, and it
Yes,
moves
yeah,
up and down on his beard when he talks.
yeah. But even like when somebody smirks, there's no like easing into a smile per se. It's like it goes from like here's position A, neutral mouth, position B, smile, and we're just gonna have a straight line here instead of like a natural like easing into it.
Mm-hmm.
You know, it's like somebody just hit like run program smile.
Right.
Here we go. Right. That's my problem with it. Right. Especially again, putting it in the context that like if this was on TV,
Mm-hmm.
this would be a really good looking animation on television, which I do agree with the rest of the Clone Wars, judging it on that. I still think Clone Wars, between the animation style and just the look of it,
Right.
I still like better than Rebels, honestly.
Okay.
Right? But when you're putting it in a theater where like literally we're talking what, second week of August?
Yep.
So right at the end of like July, I want to say, Wall-E comes out,
Right.
you know, freaking like beautiful. They got freaking Roger Deakins to come and teach them about lighting,
Right.
you know. So Wall-E's looking gorgeous. And then 2 weeks later comes this other movie, The Clone Wars. And you have just like this weird stilted animation where like the dust just looks like mud.
Mm-hmm.
You know, yeah.
So do you think it was relying on branding and maybe being able to be slightly less polished? One thing that I did notice rewatching these these 4 episodes / the Clone Wars movie is that the quality of the movie is not as good as the quality of what ended up on TV.
Yeah.
It's weird because
Like I don't know if they were rushed, you know,
yeah,
to try and get these 4 out before the show airs, you know.
it does seem like that.
Yeah.
I think like another layer of polish on this stuff, like evening out lighting, like the shadows seemed, at least on the version that I was watching, it looked like somebody had fucked with the contrast, and like the contrast toggle was out of whack on my screen, which it wasn't, because it's the same shit that I've been watching like the other episodes on. Cat and Mouse looked fine, Hidden Enemy looked fine. This one looked like the fucking contrast and color saturation was fucked up.
No, I agree. Yeah, like just everything about this animation quality,
Mm-hmm.
you could make notes of, you know, like the lighting is so basic. Again, just the animation in the movements, like so gross body movements, but also minute facial movements.
Right. I
Are
definitely
so plain.
I definitely would have expected something that was more, I don't want to say polished again, but like you said, this is a movie that you're paying for. You're going to the cinema. You're taking time to leave your house and go and pay too much money to sit in a seat for an hour and a half and fucking buy popcorn and sodas and whatever else. You know, take the family, you're spending $100, right?
Yeah.
And the quality of what was put up on that silver screen was not as high as it should have been.
No.
The production value just wasn't there.
Yeah.
That being said, I think we agree, and we can kind of move forward into talking about this actual episode. A couple of notes I had about this opening crawl. Not opening crawl.
The previously on
Right.
nothing.
The previously the newsreel, as I've been calling it. It says swiftly after the Battle of Geonosis. So I don't know about that, because like now in this series, Anakin is a Jedi, not a Padawan. He doesn't have his little rat tail. He doesn't have his Padawan braid. His hair is considerably longer. Like what is swiftly after? Like 6 months?
Yeah.
Is that what we're talking about?
And again, I think I brought it up in the first episode in Cat and Mouse where he has the scar, so something terrible happened
Right.
there.
Right. For sure.
So I agree. Yeah. By saying this is coming after Geonosis, there are a lot of
it does make
issues
it
there.
sound like it's like we were talking about with Cat and Mouse and the Hidden Enemy. Like those two stories are sequential.
Mm-hmm.
They happen in a relatively short period of time.
Yeah.
They all, the Clone Wars movie and Attack of the Clones are sequential stories, but they don't happen back to back. They didn't fucking leave Geonosis and head over to Christophsis. And, that's not what happened. So...
Yeah, because what's interesting to me, too, is... So then... Palpatine's reasoning for wanting to get involved with Jabba the Hutt also doesn't make any sense when there's all this other shit that's going on, right?
It makes no sense at all.
Like, we have to... Like, there's this crazy shit that's going on in Christophsis, but, even though things aren't settled there, let's try and help one dude out over here. And the only reasoning he says is, something about shipping lanes.
Yeah, so... In that newsreel, they say that Count Dooku and his clone army have seized control of major hyperspace shipping lanes. That's a mouthful. So how does this happen? You're in a fucking spaceship that distorts space-time and goes through hyperspace.
Yeah.
And somebody can just... You can't just hang it. You can't get in hyperspace and then hit the brakes and just fucking hang out in there. Yeah. And then when somebody comes by, you put up a stop sign. You're like, hey, halt, do not pass.
It's not a pneumatic tube system, right?
Right.
As far as we know, right? Because I don't want to cross streams here, but I remember having a similar issue with Star Trek Into Darkness.
Oh no.
Where my understanding of space travel through that show was that they were folding space so that you just end up in the next spot, basically.
Right, fold the paper, punch a hole, don't need the line.
Yeah, basically. So then there's that scene where Khan's ship, knocks it out of the little space tunnel that it's in.
Mm-hmm.
It fucking does a pit maneuver on it. And I'm like, that doesn't make any fucking sense.
Right, so I think that there's hyperspace lanes are supposed to be kind of a tubular system. I don't really understand exactly how it works. I know that in the old EU, you could use a gravity generator to replicate the gravity of a star or a planet or something else along what would be a hyperspace lane.
Yeah.
And that way, when a ship comes by, it is pulled out of hyperspace by said gravity, which is why Han talks about how you have to navigating through hyperspace ain't like dusting crops, boy.
Yeah.
If you gotta avoid the planets, you gotta avoid the stars, you gotta avoid all that other shit. Now the way he talks about it is a little different. And like I said, the old EU used these gravity well generators to A, keep people from going into hyperspace, or B, pirates would use them to pull people out of hyperspace and then rob them. So that's kind of the only explanation that I can think of, but I really don't think that makes any fucking sense.
Mm-hmm.
And it's when you combine that with, hey, this happens just after Geonosis, and it's just deliberately fucking misleading. They tell you that Jabba the Hutt's kid is kidnapped, and they say who did it in the fucking newsreel.
Yeah.
And it's not correct. And when we're viewing this in chronological order, at the end of The Hidden Enemy, we saw Ventress go and get in this orange octopus-looking ship, right? And you see that in the newsreel, swooping up the fucking sail barge, the sand barge, whatever it is. And that's when the announcer's like, hey, check it out. Jabba the Hutt's kid got kidnapped. So, like, you know that it's Ventress
Yeah.
that did it, but then they tell you that it's somebody else, and then it goes to Mace talking to Palpatine, and they're like talking about whether or not they should get involved with Jabba the Hutt.
Yeah.
And Mace Windu even says, like, oh, we're way too busy, but the two clones...
And Mace also brings up that he's a fucking... Like, he's a mafia mob boss. Like, why are they getting involved, right?
Like, hey, mafia mob boss, and the only people I got available are Anakin and Obi-Wan. Like, that's...
Yeah.
What the fuck do all the other Jedi do? Because the only time... Anytime anything happens, they're like, like, who should we send? Like, the only people that we have available are Obi-Wan and Anakin. So either Obi-Wan and Anakin, like, A, aren't fucking doing anything, they're just sitting around all the time, or B, like, they're
so efficient that they're clearing out the to-do list or something like that. Like,
yeah, or C, I guess the other Jedi are like, fuck it, man, like, we can just kind of chill, and, like, Obi-Wan and Anakin, like the dream team, are gonna go fucking get the credit for it anyway. So who gives a shit?
Handle it. Yeah. So, because then, in the grand scheme of things too, like fucking planets are being oppressed. There's space battles happening all over the place. But yes, let's go find this one kid that the local troop can't go find. Right.
Right.
So, none of that makes any sense. I don't think we're gonna figure anything else out about that. I don't know if you have anything else on that, because nothing about the reasoning, anyways, makes any fucking sense.
So moving forward through the plot, like they're like, okay, this is what we're gonna do, and then Yoda's talking to Wolf Yularen, who is no longer on Christophsis. We talked about that. Okay, get it.
Yeah.
But the last time that we saw Yoda, he was there, no? Am I confusing that with the end of a later episode?
I think you're confusing it with something else. I don't think Yoda was brought up in the other two, was he?
Okay. Probably not. So, scratch that.
He's flying
idea.
too, yeah. Because he's in transit to Christophsis. So,
but he's not.
What do you...
He's not in transit to Christophsis. Like, Wolf Yularen is talking to Yoda, and Yoda is like, you gotta take our messenger. We need a message to get to Obi-Wan and Anakin.
That's right.
Yularen's like, all right, cool, let me load up all these supplies. And Yoda straight up goes, no! Go now!
Go do this, yeah.
And Yularen's character makes a point of saying, okay, I will personally take a ship with nothing else on it but me and this one fucking person, so that you can get a message to fucking Obi-Wan. Like, Jabba the Hutt sending fucking messages all the way across the fucking galaxy. Like, Count Dooku doesn't have a fucking problem sending messages all the way across the galaxy. But they've got to, instead of... Like, that was the whole thing in fucking Cat and Mouse, is like, these two guys were the relief for this planet. Mm-hmm. Initially, it was just supposed to be Anakin, but he couldn't fucking do it on his own because he wasn't following the fucking rule book or whatever. So then Obi-Wan comes in and saves his ass. Then they stay. Everybody else fucking leaves. And now they need help because
everybody fucking left or something?
Because everybody fucking left and they're out of supplies again or whatever. But instead of sending fucking supplies, they send a quote-unquote messenger. And we'll get to who that person is. But
can we talk about some of the battles, too?
Yeah, for sure.
The battle sequences. Because, again, just judging it as a movie, these are some of the most plainly choreographed battles, I guess, if you could even call it that. Like, it's literally just lasers being shot around. They eventually shoot, they show some of the droids, right? Mm-hmm.
I think
there
that's
are
most of the choreographing is kind of like line these people up here, line those people up there, but we have to line them up in a way so that when there's 100 fucking blaster bolts firing back and forth, that nobody actually gets hit.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. And then eventually sometimes the Jedi might slice through a few droids here and there, but then like the other thing that bothers me too is we talked about it before. Anakin seems like the shittiest fucking general. I don't understand why he's in fucking charge.
I don't understand why anybody's in fucking charge.
Yeah. Cuz here's a note I wrote. A clone asks Anakin, "What's the plan?" Anakin just says, "Follow me."
Yeah, that's not a plan.
Yeah. What's the fucking plan? Like, that was not the fucking question, dude. And then the path he fucking takes is not anything that a clone can follow him with, like he literally like jumps on one of the fucking droids, lasers it in the face, jumps away again, and like a clone is looking at him like, I don't have the power to jump up there, dude. Like, we're following you,
I'll
but
just hang out here then.
yeah, because we're behind fucking safety right now, but he just like jumps out into the open right in the middle of the fucking battle.
Right.
So I don't fucking understand that at all. And then there's the whole point too where like Obi-Wan can't really reach him either, so they don't know what the fuck the two of them are doing, like they don't know what each other are doing.
Obi-Wan is literally just chilling.
Yeah, he's just like, I guess we'll just wait here, like, so because that's then even before the introduction of the other character. Do you want to get into that at all, or am I jumping forward? Was there anything else you want to talk about regarding how shitty the Jedi are?
No, I think that's pretty good. I mean, we've definitely covered how this entire conflict so far is a series of irresponsible decision making.
Oh yeah, absolutely.
So one small note I had before Anakin and Obi-Wan split, Obi-Wan's like, he says, "I told you the victory was too easy." Like, obviously, whatever fucking victory was too easy is not what we just saw in these two prequel episodes.
No.
And
No.
I know you brought it up, and it'll be brought up again, but fuck, like, somebody, I guess Pablo Hidalgo didn't have a job at that point in time doing, like, continuity checking, because he would have been like, no, okay, you're gonna make a prequel called The Hidden Enemy. That's cool. Love the idea. But we already have the story that happened immediately after that, so maybe watch it before you write some of the dialogue for Hidden Enemy.
Yeah.
Because that shit that they went through for sneaking the invisible wagon into the backyard with the bologna sandwiches and cat and mouse, and then the fucking battle just gives up in the middle of the night and hit an enemy, and Anakin and Obi-Wan can just drive across town and hang out with the literal enemy.
Yeah.
Like that.
Yeah, like
that,
the proper
that
enemy.
stuff does not add up to that victory was too easy.
No. Yeah. Yeah, I agree with all of that. So that's all. We're not even like close to finishing talking about this, but again, it's just all sloppy. All of this is very sloppy.
It is very sloppy. So, after the what the fuck kind of plan is follow me plan.
Yeah.
Somehow they get to a point where. So what happens here? Like, the battle is going on, and this particular battle seems to only happen on like a 2-lane road.
Yeah, like nowhere else on the planet, just on this one street between
just
the
on
two
this
buildings.
One street, and
yeah.
the Jedi kind of down at their end zone of the football field has some cannons, and the general that we're fighting against in this episode is named Loathsome.
Yeah.
Loathsome. Little too on the nose for my taste, but
yeah.
General Loathsome is coming down this 2-lane fucking road in a straight line, staring down the barrel of these fucking cannons, and they're getting blasted, and he's just like, all right, like, keep going. Doesn't even say anything. They're just like, that's what they're doing. They're just walking to their death because they're getting blasted by these fucking cannons. And a battle droid like turns around and says, "Look, sir, cannons." And then Loathsome is like,
Yeah.
"Oh shit, they have cannons! Like, let's turn around and run." Like, he and Yularen must have gone to like the same command school, because it was like they're getting shot at, and option A is like turn around and run and hide behind something, which is exactly what happens. So that's that.
But they all have binoculars too. Like, they would have been able to see it. It's just one straight road, right? Like,
right.
I don't understand that either.
Right.
Yeah, but
so
yeah.
so at that,
sorry, continue on.
Nope, you're good. So at that point, we have a lull in this clone war, and there's a ship that flies overhead back to home base. Obi-Wan Anakin, and so Obi and Annie are talking, and they're like, "Oh, this doesn't Obi-Wan say this must be my new Padawan or some shit like that?"
Yeah.
And Anakin criticizes him for bringing a Padawan into battle.
Mm-hmm.
And out walks this Togruta Ahsoka Tano.
Yeah.
So what's your impression of Ahsoka Tano?
First of all, I don't think they mention it. They do mention she's very young. But so just based on outside information, not anything that is given away in the movie, as far as I'm aware, she is 14.
She is 14.
Why is she in a tube top and a skirt?
Why is she too young at 14 when 10 is too old?
That too. Well, 10 is too old to begin the training, right?
Mm-hmm.
So we're assuming that she was like one of the kids that was like in the group circle with the other kids at the temple in Coruscant, right?
Right, a youngling,
right.
Which is why she gets pissed when
they keep
Anakin
calling her
that later. Right.
Yeah. So, so she's probably has been trained since child, right? Or since being very young.
Mm-hmm.
But again, just as more design issues, I do not know why they put a 14-year-old girl in a really revealing tube top. And how is that practical for war?
It's not. Like tube top, skirt, leggings, boots.
Yeah, like
it's
there
weird.
There are so many, like I just want to know how many guys were in the room making those decisions without a woman to be like, hey, maybe we shouldn't put the literally minor aged character in some revealing tube top. Number 2, I honestly do find her really fucking annoying throughout this segment. Once she shows up.
So throughout this segment or throughout?
We're just gonna start here.
Cool.
We're just gonna start here.
Good plan.
So once she shows up, she makes an annoying situation even more annoying, because suddenly the dynamic between Anakin and Obi-Wan and gets shifted between Anakin and Obi-Wan kind of making fun of each other to all three of them just making fun of way too many things, while there's still supposedly a war going on,
Right.
And they're all just like throwing back and forth like criticisms at each other, like, well, you're too young to be here, like, why are you so snippy? And like Obi-Wan's like, maybe it'd be good for you to take on a Padawan. Like, why are we making these decisions right now? Like,
right.
Why is this the fucking thing to be called on right now? Then the other issue is, I brought it up last time as a question, and it gets addressed here. Ahsoka brings it up where she's like, well, you're a clone and I'm a Jedi, therefore I outrank you.
Right.
Like, bitch, what? Like,
right. And
why
that's why I wanted.
Yeah.
Right. That's why I wanted to wait to this episode to talk about this.
Yeah. So like, that's just another issue of just like watching this and like getting these rules that don't make any fucking sense. Like, to be honest, it's, even though I honestly don't remember the first time I saw this. The first time I saw this was fairly recently. It wasn't even until like it wasn't until this was all done, all episodes, including Lost season,
So it had to have been
gotta put it up.
2014 or
Yeah.
more recent.
Oh, yeah. Like, I know I didn't watch any of them until I moved to California, and I've only been here 5 years. All right. So, because unlike your story where you were very dedicated,
Mm-hmm.
I was very excited, and then I immediately saw all the reviews,
Mm-hmm.
and both my buddy and I, we were talking about going to see it. We're like, oh shit, like it's technically another Star Wars movie. Like we should go watch it because the whole thing was supposed to be fucking over, but here you are, like another Star Wars movie. And then like all the reviews came out, and they're all just they trashed it.
You should have gone to see it, because had you back then, you wouldn't have known all this other shit. So it would have just been an hour and 30 minutes of animated Star Wars for you to enjoy.
Just again, like the messiness of the storytelling would have just frustrated me to no end. Like, right? So then again, we're getting to Ahsoka Tano being 14, outranking the Jedi. That reveal to me, even though like Revenge of the Sith kind of puts it out there, just putting it in such explicit terms, and especially with somebody that is literally 14, like it makes sense because like yeah, all the other Jedi masters, if you're a master, you should be at a certain level of intellect and all that. But then they throw in somebody who is a Padawan, like that's her whole purpose
Right.
there, to be trained by one of the other Jedi, right? So she's not ready for the big leagues yet per se. She's in the minor leagues, right? But then
Right.
why is she coaching like the major league teams here, right? Like, does that make sense?
The question makes sense. The fact
Yeah.
that
Oh yeah,
that is the reality does not make sense.
does not make any fucking sense. So
Well, I mean, think about the other group of quote-unquote generals that we have. So we have Jedi generals,
yeah,
and we have the one that we've seen so far is Bail Organa, a fucking senator, right?
yeah,
So that is the two stipulations to become a leader of battalions of clones, is that you are either a Jedi who is born with this special ability that you don't have to earn, or you are elected into office.
yes,
And thereby both of those things qualifying you to lead people into battle.
yeah. Just lives are at stake, but sure, have at it. Like,
Right.
So that.
So
go ahead.
Myself, if I were a citizen in this fucking in this galactic community during this conflict, I feel like I would have been able to sit back and go, this shit just doesn't fucking add up. This doesn't make sense. Like where, like the entire conflict, like everything, like
Yeah.
So Count Dooku used to be a fucking Jedi, but now like he's on the other side, and it's, like I don't even know. So
Yeah. But so the other complication with Ahsoka is, so not only are the three of them annoying together, we've talked to no end about how much Anakin sucks.
Mm-hmm.
Ahsoka makes the entire group suck like 5 times fucking over, right?
Right.
So Obi-Wan and Anakin split up. Ahsoka goes with Anakin to disable the shield generator, right?
Right.
So they're sneaking in, and they are essentially bickering the entire time. They're literally hiding under a box.
Yeah, I was gonna say sneaking in is being pretty generous.
Yeah.
With both of those terms, like
They're
Lorenzo said, like they are hiding under a box.
Yeah.
For like 15 seconds, and Ahsoka's like, "Oh, I'm bored. Like, why do we gotta stay under here? Like, what are we doing?" And they literally do the fucking Toy Story 2 thing where the toys are in the fucking cones and shit, like walking across the street.
Yeah.
This is what they're doing with a box over their head.
4 legs popping out from underneath the box. It moves across. Like, they might as well just hid in a bush and, like, done the whole joke where, like, a fucking droid sees a bush moving across, you know, the fucking street.
Yeah, so, okay. Anakin and Ahsoka hide in a box in the middle of the street, and then they pick it up and they're walking down the fucking street.
Yeah.
The next shot is Obi-Wan and some clones just, like, ducked behind some fucking concrete culvert, and he's just like, you just wait until it fucking passes over you, and then, like, we're inside, and we can get up, and then we can fucking shoot him again. Like, more effective means of the exact same fucking thing.
Oh, completely, yeah.
And this, aside from that, like, this whole time, Anakin has been able to, like, scale buildings and fucking jump off shit and stab 40-foot tall droids in the head. But now he has to walk down the street with a cardboard box on his head to get...
And again, it's the same street, too.
It's the same street.
Are there literally no other streets on the entire planet that they could have, you know, gone around any of this shit?
Nope.
Nope, it's just that one...
It's the main street.
That one lane, main street of Christophsis.
Well, right, and I don't know if you noticed, but I did not see a single Christophsian.
Oh, no, I was wondering about that, too.
So where are all the fucking people on the planet?
All the, like, anytime, like, because in the last episode, too, in The Hidden Enemy, they do show going inside a few buildings, but yeah, again, nobody's in there.
Right, they don't show, in The Hidden Enemy, you don't see anybody. You see insides of buildings.
Yeah.
You see streets, you see cityscapes, you see 0 people. Now, all the way back to Cat and Mouse, when Bail Organa's there, you do see some dudes, but I don't know if those are just low-level Galactic Republic
like
Army support or something that are there with Bail Organa, or if they are native Christophsians or what.
Yeah, I think I now that you bring that up, I think I know who you're talking about. I believe I was assuming they were just the crew of his ship or something like that.
Right. It's one scene. There's about 4 people walking around in the street, maybe carrying boxes, because that's kind of the de facto background character thing to do, is carry boxes around.
Which, again, only brings up, like, if the Jedi are trying to liberate the planet, who are they liberating it for?
Right,
you know?
And if there's no fucking people, why are they wasting their time?
Exactly, yeah. So, anyways, I think we've asked that question with every episode dealing with Christophsis so far, and 3 in, we got nothing.
So do you think this entire series is going to take place on Christophsis? Like, I mean, we're 3 episodes in, and that's where they're at. They've just been hanging out on Christophsis.
Well, it is annoying because, like, watching them in chronological order and not having seen them for a long time, at the wrap of every one, you know, now that we're 3 in, I kind of, like, even after the last one, I was like, oh, great, like, that's been dealt with. And then when they get into the fucking movie and they're still in Christophsis, I was like, wait, what are we still doing here? You know? So it is dangerous to say that if I were going into this chronologically by story, you know, I would be really confused because I felt like we're getting off of it, you know.
Right.
Like, here's one story about Christophsis, we're set, good, done. Here's the second one, oh, they're on the planet now. Okay, got it, great, fantastic. They dealt with another problem, great. Here's a third one with the most lifeless battles ever committed to any sort of visual medium. Like,
right.
You know, so I don't understand why we spent even this much time here. Aside from us trying to figure out why, from a story standpoint, they're there, but even just from a storytelling standpoint, you know. But even if you were to watch this in chronological release order, like, these battles are so damn lifeless. Like, I just don't understand what is happening to begin with, right?
Right, and I think so. When it comes to release order, like this would have been the first thing that we would have seen.
Mm-hmm.
So this whole Christophsis saturation, we wouldn't be feeling, right? And then at some point in time, Dave Filoni decided to make the prequel, The Hidden Enemy, which we covered in episode 2 last week, and that's fine.
Yeah.
The fact that there's a prequel to that prequel is, again, it's unnecessary.
Mm-hmm.
So we get that they're stuck there. We get that these fucking battles are going on. We get that people in this universe can't really agree on the timeline of how long things are taking, which seems like it is pretty straightforward, but it isn't. So one of the next notes that I had is that when Ahsoka shows up, she's like, Master Yoda hadn't heard from you, so he didn't know what he was going on, so that's why he sent me. Like, what the fuck? Like, Yularen was there with them, and then he left. And then Yularen was talking to Yoda, and Yoda's like, hey, I haven't heard from these guys. Like, I need you to take Ahsoka over there, my special super secret 14-year-old tube-top wearing messenger.
Yeah.
And Yularen's like, okay, boss, I'll literally stop doing anything helpful or productive.
Yeah.
And take a fucking ship over there and drop her off. And then he turns around and leaves, right? Because he's not there.
No, he's not. Yeah, again, these characters come in and out. Even having seen this entire series at some point, like, I have no connection to any of these people besides Anakin, besides the movie characters, right? Like, and, the main series movies, that is, So yeah, like all these like little clones that pop in and out, like number one, they all look alike, so that's an issue right there.
All the clones look alike?
Well, yeah, obviously.
Like in their armor or out of their armor?
In both ways, right? Like even the various flourishes they give to their armor isn't enough for me to form any sort of sentimental attachment to any of them in the short amount of time we've had with them.
Okay.
Right.
Do you think that will change? Do you think your opinion of that will evolve? I ask that because I know that the clones have the potential to be one of the strongest things in this series.
Are you asking me to tell you based on what I know from just these 3 episodes, or based on my actual experience?
I would say just kind of give your opinion, like in review of what you have seen, and with the knowledge that you've got another 122 of these things to go. Do you think that your opinion is going to stay at that same level of not really having that connection or bond with these characters?
Look,
as a whole.
As
not to put you on the spot, but
knowing. So just one more time, pretending I know nothing about the rest of the series. That is, if this were my first go through.
I would say not necessarily pretending that you know nothing, but definitely absorbing what you already know, and then knowing that there is more to come. Because most of these things, like the movie, I've seen several times.
Yeah.
At most, the rest of these episodes I've seen twice.
Yeah.
And more likely, I've only seen them once.
Mm-hmm.
So there are tidbits of information and specific characters, more likely characters that I didn't like, that I remember. Yeah. So going back and rewatching this, in the fashion that we're doing it, 1 gives me a different perspective, and 2 absolutely reminds me of all the stuff that I had forgotten about.
Yeah.
And so I'm wondering, like, I totally understand that right now You don't feel invested in these clones.
Mm-hmm.
You don't feel that connection. I'm wondering if you think that that opinion is going to change over time, or if, like, do you feel like in 122 more episodes, you're going to sit back and go, fuck, we made it, we're done, and I still don't give a shit? Or do you think that you're going to say,
I'm
what's
gonna
your
be
prediction?
honest. Regarding the clones, the clones specifically,
Mm-hmm.
I think after 127 episodes, I'm going to sit there and just say, fuck, it's over. Thank God.
Well, there's no lies there.
Especially regarding the quality of these first 3 episodes.
Uh-huh.
You know, especially, like, we're judging a section of a movie essentially at this point too, right?
Right.
Like that's not fucking helping the matter, right?
Right.
If we're already complaining about these like weird leaps in logic regarding story and even just the basic way the story is told, you know, and then looking back at Hidden Enemy, where they did try and introduce the idea of like the multiple clones with different personalities, right?
Mm-hmm.
And yet that still just washed over me, right? You know, and like I'm sitting there with pen and paper taking notes,
right?
You know, and all my one note is like one of them's named Chopper. That's the only note I made, right?
Right.
You know, so like they're all still just fucking there. You know, Filoni thus far has done nothing to make me care about any of them.
I see this in 2 ways.
Mm-hmm.
Number 1,
yeah,
that it is a good thing that you just see them as more characters along the way.
Yeah.
Because that is the way that they would need to be viewed for... Okay, let me back up. It is important for the common populace to see these clones as just that. Clones, just, you know, repetitive, repetitive units in a disposable army.
Yeah.
And not to formulate that connection with them. So, either A, Dave Filoni is doing a good job in convincing you that these are just cogs in the big machine, or B, he is failing completely, and what he is trying to do is give these guys personality and stuff, and it's just not reeling you in. Because I'm definitely on the, I love that we got different haircuts, and these guys dye their fucking hair, and different facial hair and tattoos and all that shit. Like, I'm on board. Like, I think I can't wait to meet more of these guys.
No, see, as a general idea, I like the detail that, yes, the clones are clones genetically, but not in personality.
Okay.
That makes sense from just a real world perspective, right?
Uh-huh.
The problem is in the storytelling as of now, right? Like, we got 22 minutes of one clone being a turncoat in a group of clones that I don't care about. You know, like, you know, like, I'm supposed to be concerned for the safety of these clones, but we're essentially like 22 minutes into a full story, and then through the second set of 22 minutes, I'm supposed to feel concerned that the other clones are getting stabbed in the back. And from a logical standpoint, I see it, but from an emotional standpoint, you know, like it hadn't gotten there yet. And then getting to this point where they then throw in Ahsoka Tano, who's just this like whiny kid, you know, that only complicates matters more. Where then, you know, it's they're introducing too much too soon, maybe almost, right?
Okay.
Like, and I don't know how else they would do it, because, you know, in essence, they aren't introducing anything that wasn't already really set up by the Attack of the Clones, right?
I mean, the whole
In terms,
Anakin has a Padawan thing definitely
well,
is.
yeah,
Um,
but in terms of like the overarching idea that yes, you have these clones, there's gonna be a lot of them, you
mm-hmm.
know, but then they're dropping all these characters in. It's like, here's this unit, now go care about this unit, like
Right.
you got to earn it to some degree, right?
Okay.
You know,
And I guess that was my question: is do you think that they will earn your trust, respect by the end, or
not if the storytelling keeps up in this shoddy manner, like,
no? That's great to know, because that's
Yeah.
kind of a standard that we can all, I guess, expect out of you moving forward.
Yeah.
So
and I look, everything I watch, I hope to be good, right?
mm-hmm.
I'm not a person who's gonna go watch something and hope it's bad, right?
Right.
Like, it's, if I really don't think it's gonna be good, I'll avoid it completely, right?
So I take it you've never seen like Sharknado.
I have seen parts of the first Sharknado, but no, like I do that too, where like I've seen The Room, I've watched all 3 Fifty Shades movies,
Mm-hmm.
in theaters for all three of those. I've seen there's a pleasant movie called Zardoz, starring Sean Connery.
Interesting.
If you've never heard of it, it's a movie in which it's a post-apocalyptic world where humanity is split between dumb savages and smart people, but then the smart people have gotten so smart that they're immortal, and they capture a savage who is Sean Connery. They realize that the savages are multiplying in some form, but they don't understand how. So there's literally a scene where they have Sean Connery naked on a slab tied down, and they're showing him a video of two women mud wrestling, and they're scientifically analyzing and trying to figure out what an erection is.
Awesome.
This is a real movie. It is amazing. I've seen it a handful of times. Or Showgirls. Showgirls is a good one too. Please tell me you've seen Showgirls. Oh, so good.
I have not, but I have seen. I used
Dolphin
to really
sex
enjoy like sci-fi originals and all that shit.
Yes.
So
same thing. Like, even knowing that some of these movies aren't going to be high quality, I'm still going for some sort of enjoyment factor out of it. Like, right?
Uh-huh.
The Room is like the perfect example of it. Like the dialogue is rough. The story makes no sense. A fucking woman shows up and goes, "It's official. I have breast cancer." Like, what? But it's still fun, right? But then these three episodes, just everything about the storytelling is so haphazard and so by the numbers and just so base level, right? It's like, I mean, and I don't mean to disparage this group of people because I used to be one of them, but it's like somebody in fucking college is learning how to write a story, and then somehow Lucas picked it up and was like, "That's the story. We're gonna go for it." Like, yes, put them all in one ship and do that. Make it a submarine instead.
Right. No,
So.
I think that's really interesting because it's great info to know, and I'm interested to see the evolution or the steadfastness of
My opinion as we go on.
Your opinion moving forward.
Yeah.
Because I have definitely made it clear that kind of like this whole Clone Wars thing I fucking love. Like,
yeah,
just about everything about it. Like,
Mm-hmm.
I don't mind Ahsoka. I don't mind the animation. I don't mind the shortcomings. I think the fucking clones are awesome.
Yeah.
And all that jazz. So I am I'm looking at this whole thing through rose-colored glasses and just smiling to myself, you know. So
Yeah.
I think it's a good juxtaposition, your opinion and mine, at least what we've revealed so far. And so moving forward, I think we can expect some definitely active conversations, and we're not just gonna be sitting here like, hey, what do you think? Oh yeah, I think the exact same thing. Like, all right, see you next
bro.
week.
Awesome.
Right.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. No, I'm
There's
looking forward to some of these dynamic things. But yeah, no, we're at an hour and 10, so let's start seeing where we got to go here.
Yeah, there's a couple of plot points that I wanted to hit, and then just kind of do a wrap up, and we can be done for the week. One of them, and I guess this episode I kind of took more of a questionary approach to my note taking, but one of them is, you know, when did the Separatist Army get these shields? Because they didn't fucking use them yesterday.
Oh yeah.
They didn't use them the last week when we were on Christophsis, both of those times. And I know, again, a lot of these questions, it goes back to that storytelling. It goes back to that some of the shit was written at one point in time and some of it was written at another point in time. And people didn't seem to just cross-reference and take a look at what was already done.
I mean, they had access to their own scripts, I'm assuming, right? Like,
yeah, I would assume so.
A simple like Control F would have helped a lot of this, I feel like, you know. But that's my main criticism right now, right? Like, it's not only are the stories so basic, but then just in trying to add on to that by creating these weird problems. Look, it's early on, so we briefly discussed this in the intro episode where we didn't even start talking about the show yet, but because of like these weird inconsistencies within just 3 episodes, I am kind of amazed that when Disney threw out old canon,
they kept this in.
Yeah, that they kept this in. This is going to be something I know a few episodes down the line that I will bring up again.
This is awesome.
There are a few things that I remember the first time watching this. I'm like, how is this still fucking canon? Like, this is fucking nuts. But so, yeah, because especially now that like the story group, the Lucasfilm story group is very tight on continuity, right? Like, so these little things that are in here are very surprising because it does kind of exemplify in a nutshell the old EU to me, right? Where it was kind of like an anything goes, you know.
Which is funny because I always perceived the old EU to be pretty solid as far as canon goes. Like, I knew that like shit in the comics like kind of had like the comics kind of had their own canon.
Yeah.
Like the kids' books kind of had their own canon, but like the fucking novels, like hardcore fucking EU.
Yeah.
Literature, it was all fucking there. Like when Chewbacca died being smashed by a fucking moon,
yeah,
he was dead. He
didn't, it was consistent.
He didn't pop up in another book. He didn't, you know. There's an author, Karen Travis, I believe her name is. She wrote a lot about Boba Fett, and she actually wrote a lot about the clones, and had a Republic Commando series. She wrote, I believe, the novelization of the Clone Wars movie.
Yeah.
Okay. Did some amazing things with the clones and with Boba Fett, and that was the first Star Wars Bloodline book. Was it talked about Boba Fett being super fucking old because he got out of the Sarlacc pit.
Yeah.
In the old EU, right, and probably in the new canon as well, but he grew to old age and he had all these problems because he was a fucking clone and like body parts are falling off and shit. And so he tracked down the old Kaminoans that he could find to fix him. And she, like, she really just did like these awesome things with fucking clones and Boba Fett, and she wrote 4, 5, 6 fucking books that all had
Yeah.
to do with them, and developed part of the Mandalorian written and spoken language.
Hmm.
And then there was one episode that we'll get to of the Clone Wars that directly contradicted with some of the stuff that she had been writing for fucking years.
Yeah.
And she put down the pen and she walked away, and
Jesus.
she basically said, "Fuck you, you know, Lucasfilm and all your shit. Like, I put too
Yeah.
much time into this for you to just have somebody come in and then." And it's really like a single line of dialogue, like
Yeah.
one single action wiped out everything that she had done.
Yeah. See, that's
And
see,
that was even that was even before Disney.
well, yeah. Like all of this is going to be before Disney, essentially. You know,
Yep,
but
you're totally right.
But that's, that was part of my. We talked about it in the intro. I never got into EU until Disney. When I found out Disney threw out EU and was gonna have some sort of internal story group kind of checking on things, and I'm not asking for exact perfection, but it is those weird things where you have various hierarchies where, like, if George Lucas says it, then it trumps everything else.
Yeah, it's like Stu John.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, Stu John is the perfect example where he just like jokingly says it in an interview.
Yeah. So for listeners out there that may not know what I'm talking about, many years ago at a convention that I won't get too deeply into, George Lucas was interviewed by Jon Stewart, and one of the questions that was asked, and these were all, I think they were all fan submitted questions, and
I think that one was actually like Jon Stewart himself just bringing it up. Yeah.
So a lot, yeah. So anyway, Jon Stewart said, what's Obi-Wan's home planet? And George Lucas looked at him and he goes, well, John, obviously it's he's from Stu John.
Yeah. That immediately becomes actual canon.
It was on
At the time.
Wikipedia within like fucking minutes.
Oh yeah. So like there's no backing source to it other than that just it comes from George Lucas's mouth,
Right.
So
George
like
Lucas opened his mouth
Yeah.
and verbally farted, and it became Star Wars canon.
So that was my problem with old canon, where like even after all 3 prequels are done, if George Lucas just goes, Boba Fett's a woman, like like that's like what do you do? Like there's what? Huh? Like like I guess he is. I don't know what to do about this information, but like we have to go by that word now, right?
Yep.
So again, we're launching off again here a little bit out into the stars here, but
We're definitely a little bit tangential on this episode.
Oh yeah, but again, because like this first one, especially being a movie after all the prequels, so like it really should have been the prior to Disney. There was no other plans for any other movies. This was it. This was the new Star Wars you're gonna get in terms of visual motion arts, right? So again, this brings it up to like my first point of trying to judge it as either a TV show or a movie. How that goes. But it's interesting how they try to nestle in this story, right? And you're somehow supposed to believe that when you're watching Revenge of the Sith, that even just knowing just these 3 episodes, like that all this shit's been going on, and somehow a few years later they're still doing generally okay. 3 years later,
Yeah, and to expand on that, like the optimism that is still available.
Yes.
3 years down the line, after all this stuff, like how many times can you go into battle and make it out the other side and still have a fucking positive attitude. Like,
Well, yeah, like we're at the beginning of Revenge of the Sith, which actually we could. I don't think it's in. It's actually not in this episode, but where Anakin is fucking smiling and goes, "This is where the fun begins." I'm like, what?
no, Ahsoka says it.
Is it in this one or is it the next one?
I don't know.
It's in the next one, I believe.
Okay.
It's in the next one.
Okay.
So we're skipping forward there. But no, so like Anakin says with a fucking smile after 3 years of fucking war,
this is where the fun begins.
this is where the fun begins. Like, what? How many people have died in 3 years? Like, it sounds like a pleasant war, I guess. Like,
yeah, I don't even know. So, I'm gonna jump back to plot and just kind of wrap up the remainder of what happens in this episode.
Yeah.
So that we can put this one to bed and and move on. So, I think a lot of these things are things that we can talk about each episode, and maybe we'll open that can of worms a little bit each time and give a little bit more of our personal opinions behind the scenes. But so we had Anakin and Ahsoka hiding under a cardboard box.
Yep.
They Forrest Gump their way fucking through some shenanigans, including like these kind of soda pop can looking fucking droids that pop up from underneath the concrete. And
can we also stop real quick to explain that only happens because Ahsoka's fucking stupid and then just like runs into the open thing. Anakin tells her to wait, and then she like bumps into
these antennas sticking out of the ground.
Yeah, like
absolutely.
It's a trap that's set. They're right there. I don't know how she misses them.
It does seem like a super overly elaborate fucking trap. Like just put some fucking landmines in there.
Yeah.
Dude, she steps on one, blows her fucking face off. Like, you don't have to worry about it again.
No, that's what bothers me about Ahsoka. She should have just died right then and there.
Right.
Like, I would have felt more sympathy for her. Like, oh, well, she's the kid who didn't listen.
So they get through this 8th
dumb,
grade
elaborate trap.
Yeah, it's like this 8th grade Halloween party booby trap thing at the end of Main Street. Kristoff says, and they end up fucking standing there and like bickering back and forth. And meanwhile, Obi-Wan is talking to
Loathsome,
which
I still hate that name.
Yes.
And then
do you loathe it?
Yeah. Yes, quite so. They walked into that one.
So that it's kind of amusing. Like Obi-Wan's cracking jokes and fucking just straight up stalling.
Oh,
and it
clearly
totally
stalling.
works. And the guy calls him out for like, fuck you, Obi-Wan. You're like wasting my time. You're stalling. He's like, honestly, I thought that Anakin would have fucking done the thing he was supposed to do by now.
Yes, let's put all the cards on the fucking table. Like,
right. Cut back to Anakin and Ahsoka, and Anakin's like, well, did you plant the fucking bombs or what? And she's like, yeah, watch. Boom. Blows the thing up, and then essentially real quick wrap up to this section of the story, because Obi-Wan's like, see, check that out. Fucking grabs the guy by the neck, and everybody just kind of fucking gives up, and like, that's the end of it.
Oh, wait. Because I took this note, grabs the guy, holds the guy as a human shield, and then the droid keeps shooting at Obi-Wan. Which I, again, do not understand how these two sides of the war aren't just killing themselves on each side, because they both seem so horribly incompetent. Like, Ahsoka should have stepped on a mine, killed herself. And then the droids basically should be shooting themselves in the face every time they're checking their weapons to see if it works. Like,
right.
Like, none of this I understand whatsoever. Like,
yeah, I guess to kind of sum it all up, like, so far in the Clone Wars, we've seen incompetent decision making and incompetence on the battlefield.
Yeah.
We've seen incompetent leadership, and we've seen incompetent participations.
Yep. The fact that anybody's alive is always like pure luck.
Right.
mostly too. Like,
So,
yeah.
hey, I do have one thing
Mm-hmm.
that we've been missing in these past episodes. Okay, this is non-content related. So, do you have anything else for this?
Nope.
We're gonna wrap
That's
one
my
up
wrap
and call
up.
it quits.
Yeah.
Okay. Before we get to all of our social media stuff, we need to throw out a couple of thank yous. We have been remiss. We have forgotten the past few episodes, but we want to give a shout out and a thank you to Lindsay over at Strange Fantasy Music. You can reach her actually at strangefantasymusic@gmail.com. She was kind enough to put together our intro music, outro music, and then also the designer of our podcast artwork, and that's Kevin Warren. You can reach him over on Twitter at They Call Me K-Dub. That's all one word, THEYCALLMEKDUB. So
Yeah. Thank you. Yeah, because those are all great. Like, that was really fun seeing our own caricatures. Because I didn't realize it was gonna be that detailed. Kevin here goes off and is like, "Yeah, I got like a guy working on art." I'm like, "Oh, okay, that sounds great." You know, in the formation of this, because I'm just working, going home, watching movies, playing video games, all that stuff. And Kevin over here is like, "No, I got a guy doing this for us," and then comes back with this awesome cover artwork with the two of us in it, like. Because you did ask for like a picture, so I was like,
I was like,
the best I got.
Send me over like a hero pose, dude, and yeah, I get this thing. So, yeah, Kevin, I don't know if you're listening, but we really appreciate it, and any downloads moving forward are obviously because of the catchy artwork.
Yes,
it's super fucking awesome.
Yeah.
So,
and for sure, the intro music is very awesome. It's pretty epic. Hearing that and then leading into our own voices every time I'm kind of listening back on these episodes. So that's really cool too.
I gave Lindsay like a 15-second clip, 30-second clip of the Clone Wars intro music, and I said, have fun, play.
Yeah,
get me.
And it's cool.
Get me something back. Let me know what you can do. So that's what you came up with. That's fucking badass. So that's what I got for that. So normal social media stuff, Lorenzo.
So Twitter at Not the Nerds, Instagram at Not the Nerds. If you look us up on Facebook at Not the Nerds Podcast, I'm the one updating that. Kevin's updating the Twitter. I only say that because I realized I was writing things like, I'm doing this over here on Facebook, but there's two hosts. I'm referring to myself.
I do the same thing.
Yeah. So just to make it clear to anybody that's reading those, I am the one writing the Facebook. So any mentions of me or I, that's Lorenzo here. And then over on the Twitter side, same thing, but for Kevin. So Kevin's handling that one. If you want to email us, we have an email set up, notthenerdspodcast@gmail.com. So, so please, subscribe. This currently is on iTunes and Google Play. I'm going to try and get it on Stitcher. So if you're a Stitcher fan, I'll try and get it there. I think like TuneIn might be the other spot I'm going to try and get it to, but for sure, Google Play, iTunes. Please review us, subscribe. Let us know what you think, too. So we'll check.
iTunes reviews, man.
Yeah, rate us. Let us know.
That would be fucking awesome.
Yeah,
if
or engage with
an
me.
iTunes review, I would read it live on air for the first time or second time, and I'd like to hear some feedback. What you guys think?
Yeah, absolutely. That'd be great. So I think that's it on this very long episode of These Aren't the Nerds You're Looking For. Yeah. Any other final thoughts?
Not that I can think of. So
okay.
I've been I almost said I've been Lorenzo. I've been Kevin. That's been Lorenzo. And remember, these aren't the nerds you're looking for.
See ya, everybody.